Hi, Paulo. How are you?
Hey Ferris, nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you. We've known each other for a long time, so I think this is probably overdue. So I appreciate you, saying yes and coming on.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. I already see many colleagues of mine here, so yeah, I'm honored to be here as well.
Yeah, I think we probably should have done this a few years ago because we've been speaking for so long. Better late than never, right?
Yes, exactly. Better late than never. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah. So it'd be great to, start with obviously, I think a lot of people in the OutSystems ecosystem, know who you are. But for those who don't, it'd be good to have a bit of a background, a bit of introduction to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my name is Paulo Fernandes. I'm basically a lead solution architect at OutSystems. I've been working there for the past 8 years, so a long time already. I think it's the number one company definitely that have been
Yeah,
working for so long. My background is I basically have a master's in communications and network engineering in Instituto Superior Técnico, it's Lisbon University. Yeah, I have been working in companies like Deloitte and others, another no codes, not low, no code provider before
yeah.
OutSystems. And yeah, it's that's basically my background.
Yeah. And, like you said, you've worked for Deloitte and, we're going to touch on different locations and things like that later on. But, how did you kind of obviously, a lot of people in Portugal know of OutSystems. It's well documented, but, when did you first come across OutSystems, and what was your initial kind of reaction? Were you skeptical? Were you kind of intrigued?
Yeah, the first time actually I heard about OutSystems was back in, I think it was around 2012 or something. I was working at Deloitte in a big project. It was actually the biggest project at the time for Deloitte Portugal. It was on a bank core replacement. And I was part of the front end team. And with me, I have another colleague that actually moved to OutSystems after he was working there for 2 years with me. And he was telling me, so he was basically the guy sitting next to me. We were working
Yeah.
together, doing all these long hours. You know how it is.
Yeah, of course.
And he was telling me that our life would be so much easier if we would have chosen to go with OutSystems instead of we were using SharePoint and .NET
Yeah.
and Oracle Fusion
Yeah.
and PL SQL and all these things to create the front end. And he was just saying about that. So for me, when he said that, I mean he was already there anyways. I believed in him, but I was a bit
Yeah.
skeptical because I thought it was,
Yeah.
the timelines he was giving me and the way he was explaining, for me, it was too good to be
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then afterwards, actually, as I explained, I joined a no-code platform,
Oh.
a company there in Switzerland that was very focused on the insurance industry.
Uh,
And after a while, this guy, his name is Rui. He came back actually when I was in Portugal, and he bought me lunch, and he tried to
yeah.
convince me to join OutSystems. And
Yeah.
for me, it was like, for me, it was didn't make a lot of sense because I was working for a Swiss company,
Yeah.
Swiss salary, Portugal,
Yeah.
Portuguese salary.
Yeah.
So I actually went to the interview process, and this is the first time I actually touched the technology because I had to go through it on the interview process. And I went skeptical of two things. First, that I would never go to OutSystems because I was being, financially it would be a suicide,
Yeah.
so I would not go. And
Yeah.
second, I was really, I wouldn't see in my head a lot of difference between the product I was currently using on my company in Switzerland and this one. But things turned around very differently as I'm working there for
Yeah.
8 years. So basically, I really, in the interview process, I really got to know the product. I enjoyed a lot working with it. I understood its power. That was actually the number one, I
Yeah.
would say, maybe not, probably number one factor that made me decide to join OutSystems was the product. I really believe in it. And I'm a solution architect. I mean, you can call it pre-sales. So yeah,
Yeah.
it has sales on the word. So I have to sell something I need to believe
Yeah.
in.
You gotta believe it.
And
Yeah.
it was the people that interviewed me, which was the people that were going to work with me throughout all
Mm.
these years. So that's the first time. And yeah, once I tried it, I became less skeptical and I
Mm.
started understanding the power of it.
Yeah. And like you said, I think there's so many people who are skeptical, right? And I think a lot of people go by actually never trying it out. They'll just stay skeptical and they'll refuse to give it a go.
Exactly.
Obviously you gave it a go and that was the opportunity to change your minds. As someone who, like you said, is sales side, you're speaking to businesses all the time, right? And
Yeah.
I can imagine
Yeah.
how many conversations you've had in 8 years with different types of clients in different regions. What's some of the, biggest misconceptions you kind of hear that, back in 8 years ago, that, what were some misconceptions, and has that evolved, or are some of them still kind of sticking around today when low code is much more well known versus 8 years
Yeah.
ago?
Yeah, I think you find less skeptical people, but you still find them. I was just in South Africa last week, and
Yeah.
I'm in a meeting, and there's always one. There's always one that at least he was honest. He was honest and very straightforward with it. But yeah, I would say that some things evolved and disappeared even. Some others are just completely different. So for example, 8 years ago, the term low code didn't exist. So
Yeah.
just for you to explain what the platform did was a problem, was an issue. There was no trust in what it was possible to do. It was an outlier. Nowadays,
Yeah.
the problem is the opposite, is that you have too many that they call
Yeah.
themselves low codes, and they are low code in a way.
Yeah.
And then once someone tried one, he assumes all are the same and belong to the same bucket, while that's not true, right? So, you could hear things like low code is only for small, simple applications.
Yeah.
You could hear that people saying low code is main goal is to replace developers. They fear that now business users will start drag and dropping and developers are no longer needed, when it's actually the opposite, to augment developers and automate like repetitive tasks and things that you can now focus on important things in innovation, in architecting, scalability, in business logic, in things that matter. Low code means low quality. I mean, that was also something I heard. I don't hear this nowadays because it's very easy, for you to
Yeah.
prove them wrong. You just have
Yeah.
enough use cases and customer stories and people that just are telling what they built with the platform, that can prove in any industry, actually, that can
Yeah.
prove anyone wrong in terms of low quality. But yeah, that's something I heard a lot. And then one that is still ongoing, it's that OutSystems is expensive compared to custom
Yeah.
development. So this is not really technical, which is where
Yeah.
my world is, but this is something I hear a lot. And this happens because, in my view, because the platform license costs is visible upfront, right? But
Yeah.
and people don't account for all these things that they need to, like faster delivery, lower maintenance, the
Yeah.
technical depth, the fewer specialized skill set that they need, so that the
Yeah.
TCO in the end is smaller. But you need to go through a process to justify the business case. And some people just look at the license cost and they say, this is too expensive. Well, compared to what? What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Why are you talking to us in the first place, right? So yeah, these are some of the misconceptions I think I still hear. Especially the last one, I would say the replace developer still happens as well. But
Yeah.
like I said, I find less people skeptical and more that they have already tried something and they don't believe that ours is different from
Yeah.
any other that they have tried
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, obviously, as close as last week where you're in South Africa, and there's someone
Mhm.
who, in most boardrooms or meeting rooms, there'll be usually one or two, or maybe sometimes none. But, have you had an instance where you've entered a meeting and you can kind of feel that these guys are not kind of keen to be here? And obviously you're there with an AE, or, like a sales guy, and your role is to obviously do the magic, right? And show them what the platform can do. Have you had a situation, or can you tell me about a situation where you've gone in, you can feel that this is going to be a difficult meeting, and
Yeah.
you've left and it's been totally opposite, where positive energy, really excited about the platform?
Yeah, that actually happens a lot because, like you said, when it's only pitch,
Yeah.
presentations and
Yeah.
conversation, people are often skeptical and they are not seeing something, and they're even sometimes not listening to it. So
Yeah.
when it comes to a live demo, um, this is when the power of the platform shows up, right? So there's a lot of people that, yeah, you can feel some of them. Actually, the most dangerous ones are the ones you cannot identify them immediately, but they have their
Yeah.
own agenda and they really want to push it. And it's not really, they're from day one, not open-minded. They are not interested in listening to you, right? So they are trying to, to go through, to push you to a path where you don't want to go. But
Yeah.
it happens more often than not that you have people that are, just, I would say, they are there, they're not very interested. It's not they are skeptical, they're interested sometimes.
Yeah.
And when they see that what I am able to do in such a short amount of time with just one person sitting with I'm not even using my mouse, just my
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes on mousepad, and I do all these
Yeah.
changes and they really become the eyes open, right? So you can
Yeah.
I pay a lot of attention. I think all solution architects do, or people that do demos, that to the audience, and you can see when the people are opening more the eyes or the body language. And there
Yeah.
are certain parts of our live demos that you can see people responding very well to it. So that
Yeah.
happens a lot. That happens a lot. That's people, in the beginning are asking hard questions, saying they don't want to adopt. Some usually don't say, but they show. And then
Yeah.
suddenly they are open and asking questions about next steps, and they want to see a use case and continue the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. I reckon that body language is probably a big kind of part of your meetings where it's looking at people's body language, eyebrow raisers, things like that, kind of just, you kind of
Yeah.
know what's kind of appealing to them and you feed off that and keep going in that direction, right? And kind of finding their pain points. But, also in regards to obviously, it's very kind of marketed, and even though it's not the case, it comes across like traditional versus low code, which is not the case, right? It's very much both can coexist. How do you position when you're going and speaking to these leaders and business leaders? How do you position OutSystems when they're just so used to traditional development?
Yeah, it's not always easy, but in my view, the key is to anchor the conversation in outcomes, architecture and control, because these are usually the things that they are looking for, they are not willing to lose, right? So we need to kind of reposition OutSystems, not that it is a low-code platform or
Yeah.
it's not, it's that modern application development platform that is built to empower their teams to deliver faster. It's not to build toy apps, it's not a black box. This is how we need to do it. So the first thing I do, and I think because every business leader, every IT head of IT or whoever will have their own challenges, right? So
Yeah.
you need to understand why they are talking to you. That's the first thing. So start with what matters to them, their challenges, their pain points. Maybe they are struggling because they want to, I don't know, modernize a legacy system, but they don't have the skill set they need in order to do so, or they are drowning in they have a huge backlog and shadow IT. Depends
Yeah.
really on the use case, because if the platform does so many things that if you don't understand the reasoning behind them reaching out, you'll just say stuff that don't really
Oh,
resonate with the audience. So you need to understand that's number one. Then again, reframe low code as a strategic advantage and not as a threat, because it's sometimes it can be seen. So explain that developers can become more productive, that your
oh,
architecture can become more consistent, that your business can become more agile. So these type of things. So emphasize again extensibility, control, architecture, these type of things. So explain how the platform works in a high level and then going as down
yeah.
as needed. And in case of OutSystems specifically, I usually try to mix the three concepts, which is speed, quality, and maintainability. You don't need to compromise, or I say like most tools offer speed, and what's unique
Oh,
about OutSystems is that you combine this rapid development, enterprise architecture, and the ability to keep technical depth and under control. And these three things usually resonate very well with this type of enterprise architects or head of ITs, because this is what they're looking for. And then, of course, you can say whatever you want,
yeah.
but you need to prove it. So you
Yeah.
have different ways of doing that. Usually, we bring use cases, customer stories related to what the solutions they are trying to build, or the industry, if we don't know exactly what it is they're trying to achieve, and we invite their teams to actually start to experiment with the platform,
Mm.
because we see it as an advantage. As soon as people start engaging with it, it opens a whole new world. And there will be people that will like it. There will be people that won't like
Yeah.
it. There's always you can start the conversation, and you have now a bit more sponsorship. There's always a champion that
Yeah.
grows when it starts using the platform, right? So you need to go to that stage.
Yeah.
It's not easy sometimes, like I said,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's usually the path generically that I try to take. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what you said, that's what I was going to say about obviously the champion is key, right? If you can get a champion, it's obviously an internal person pushing for it, but I think leaders and, these guys, obviously they're more open because they want to innovate, they want to be ahead, but then when you bring in the devs, they're a lot more loyal to they're a lot more loyal to .NET or whatever they've been doing. How is that kind of, I'm assuming, and tell me if I'm wrong, you get more pushback at the dev level versus the upper management level.
Yeah, and it's normal, because the developer is looking at his daily work. It usually
Mm.
depends on the developer, right? But
Yeah.
while a manager of a head off is looking to outcomes, it's looking
Yeah.
to, okay, I don't care
Yeah.
how I get there. If I guarantee that I have, consistency, that I have security, that I have performance, that I have all these pieces in place, and they're telling me this is faster and I have a better ROI, in the end of the day, why shouldn't I try? While a developer is more concerned about, it's more resistant to change, because it's first of all, it's the
Yeah.
platform or the tool or the technology he now needs to use every day, right? and he's already used to something. He likes it
Yeah.
most of the time. So why would he change, right? So yeah, like I said, when you're talking to devs, you will find people that will immediately jump into that technology and just love it, and you will find people that you immediately identify as people that will probably never like it. So, for
Yeah.
example, Ferez, you were asking me about highly skeptical people that then completely,
Yeah.
changed. So, I mean, there's many stories. Like you're talking about meetings, for example. We had a customer. It was already a customer actually, but just for a small application. It
Yeah.
was actually a solution they bought, and OutSystems happened to be the platform that was built
Yeah.
in. They didn't even know. So they were our
Okay.
customer, and they were a bank, and we were trying to, we had a very good conversation and a very good alignment with the CIO. But there was a layered, let's say, hierarchy of people that had to approve or sponsor the
Yeah.
technology so that it would be adopted. And one of them was I'd say the enterprise architect kind of role.
Yeah.
And although we did, we did lots of things, like it was a huge process, but the cherry on top of the cake was we did a POC where so it was a competition between like teams, internal teams, and our own team. There was a design agency that was picked outside externally. They designed the whole experience,
Nice.
and we had to do it. They had to do it. We had the same time. We did it with less people. And the long story short, we did it with less people. We did it for iOS and Android. They only did it for
Nice.
Android, I believe. And they had videos, with this
Yeah.
animation showing, because it was like the experience of the future mobile, home
Yeah.
banking mobile. And we put it side by side in the end of 7 days of the POC. It was the
Wow.
same. So I was in the
Yeah.
board meeting. I presented it. It was amazing. I think most people were converted, but
Okay.
the enterprise architect, he understood it was possible.
Yeah.
But it's like soccer.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like soccer.
You're not sure. Yeah.
If
Yeah. Of course.
the thing was, it was lost since day one, because
Yeah.
if the CIO was expecting the approval or the conversion of that person to go with OutSystems, we would be losing this opportunity since day one.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. So we converted many people. They understood it was possible. We still didn't went through with this
Yeah.
opportunity. So it's not our customer,
Yeah. Oh,
unfortunately.
wow. Yeah. That's a shame. Yeah. That's a
So
shame that,
there's so
sometimes the
many
one
stories.
person can do that. Yeah. It's a real shame sometimes. But, obviously, right. I wouldn't say right now. I think probably maybe the last 2 years, there's no conversation without the two letters AI involved. I think,
Yeah.
that's just on everyone's tip of everyone's tongue. How are you kind of, with AI kind of, really gaining traction, with the business leaders that you're meeting with, are they more open now to low code? Are they more hesitant? Obviously, I think even the platform itself, since kind of AI has come in the mix, has brought in several AI features, to make it exciting. But how has it been, that process of, has things kind of now slowed down because they think, okay, there's so many other solutions now, or is it still just going at a good pace?
Yeah, I think it's going in a good pace. Answering your question, I believe businesses are more open to adopt local platforms. But as you said, there's also more tools and solutions in the market. So it's kind of, although so there's less skepticism. And the reason why, in my opinion, is because now even the most traditional, powerhouses, traditional codes, they understand there's a different way to code, because that's the barrier you want to break is, guys, there's a different way to do this. Why don't you listen to us? And they don't want it, right? AI changed that. People now have a different mindset, and they are more open to listen to different solutions. But now there are many solutions. Even when you're talking about traditional codes, I mean,
So
you
many.
cannot even name them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, in my view, is things haven't picked up or slowed down. In my experience, they are pretty much the same. We're growing. So there's growing interests. Didn't change a lot. What I believe is that, especially now that we have also Woodson, the new CEO, coming in, and I believe that OutSystems has a clear and a bold vision on what it wants to do with AI. So if we are able to achieve that vision, I believe that OutSystems will now capitalize on an opportunity with AI, on this AI wave, right? That will get us to a point where actually businesses or new potential customers, new businesses are interested and are reaching out because of our AI offering, not because we are low code. And I think that could be a game changer, right? It's not, it's like, all these tools that now are popping in like mushrooms, they are AI native, right?
Yeah.
So if businesses see you not as a low code platform with AI, but AI platform that happens
Yeah.
to have low codes,
Yeah.
things can turn around. And I think this is one of the things we're trying to get in.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I was going to ask, do you think, especially because there's so many low code platforms, right? And you said people assume everyone does, if it's
The
on the
same.
one quadrant, they're all doing everything. I've seen one, I don't need to see others, right? So do you see the direction moving away from the word low code and just AI focused app gen kind of direction?
I don't think it will happen in the near term, because that I think the maybe in a marketing way, but the value
Yeah.
proposition of OutSystems
Mm.
is so the core value proposition is still that you have a low code platform with this very powerful visual
Yeah.
language, this acceleration, maintainability. AI sits as an abstraction on top of an abstraction we already created 24 years ago, right? So it
Yeah.
can drastically accelerate things and simplify things. So even breaking, simplifying the skill set even to create, for example, new
Yeah.
applications. I don't think we will ever change that because it's not on our interest. I see it as a value thing, as a good
Yeah.
thing, not as a bad thing. But who knows? I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't
yeah,
know
of
what.
course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And last, we're approaching this year's conference, but last year's conference, the big announcement was Mentor, right? And
Hmm.
it's going to be a year since Mentor. Since the introduction, how do you see this development experience changing for customers? And what's from what I've heard, the feedback's been great, but you're obviously on the ground. How do customers react to when they see Mentor?
Yeah, the reaction is very good. The feedback is very good. I think it's a journey, mentor. So because we started it, it's ongoing and it's evolving at a very good pace.
Yeah,
I give you an example. When we launched it, one of the first feedbacks I got from different places was that can we get so they didn't want to use the requirements document or the prompt, the natural language to as an input. They wanted to use legacy code like Java.
okay, yeah,
And everyone is saying this, and so as part of our job we also feed this loop into the
yeah.
product management team, and this is something that is coming now, like it's in the roadmap already.
Mm.
So there are different pieces being brought into Mentor that is making it evolve in a certain direction. The results from day one are impressive. I think that there's still a road to go through,
Yeah,
in order to go to our vision, which is to make delivery 100 times faster, right? We're still
yeah,
not there, but yeah, I see a very positive response. I see it as an evolving framework. It's like OutSystems Copilot.
yeah,
That's usually how I say to people that are in the traditional world, so they understand. And yeah, it's becoming more conversational, more visual, more simplified, which makes people more interested in it. They want to adopt it. Even people that are not from the let's say tech world, they don't have
yeah,
tech backgrounds, they want to participate in the process. I don't think it's already possible. I think it will become even easier and with more options and more things that you can do in the next coming months. So I think that's
yeah,
the road we are paving it with Mentor. Yeah, and it's really that's something that makes me very excited. I really like what we're doing there.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely, I think, even just at the initial announcement last year, I think there was a lot of excitement about it. I think, everyone knew, obviously, it's version one, it's gonna
Exactly.
evolve, it's gonna get better. Things are changing, rapidly changing, and it's gonna only get better. And obviously, customers give you feedback as well, right? Which can help you make it better from their standpoint. But I'm interested to know, for companies, who are kind of hesitant to adopt OutSystems as their kind of
Mhm.
main core platform, what are the typical concerns that they address, and how do you address them?
Okay, so there's different concerns, but one is as I said before, it's they use it as it's not for real developers,
Yeah,
so you need to explain and show the full stack capabilities that is enterprise grade, which by the way, Ferraz, is also one of the key value propositions when you look at Mentor, for example, right? You're building all this
yeah,
stuff, but then it sits on top of this enterprise grade platform, so all these non-functional requirements are kind of already in there. So that's
yeah,
something that is not seen. People just assume it is because we all know OutSystems. But for people that are not seeing it for the first time, it's a very big value proposition that comes on top. So we need to explain this is a platform that is built for professional developers, right? That you can do custom code. It has CI/CD. You can build complex architectures. So yeah, that's number one. I would say it's explaining that even if you drag and drop, you are still a developer.
yeah,
You're still you're not going to lose it. And even if you don't want to do it, there's space, a lot of space for you to continue to do your traditional development and custom code and all these things. Because OutSystems is not going to be
Yeah.
the only platform and the only technology in your house, right? Second one, this is still a common one. It's the lock-in. We'll be logged
Yeah.
in into the platform. So we kind of need to explain that, you own all your IP,
Yeah.
all the applications, all the data, everything that you build on top of the platform is yours, is not ours. We provide a
Yeah.
platform. So you build your applications, you build your,
Yeah.
you store your information, but it's yours in the end of the day, your code, your data, your business logic, and it's exportable, it's extensible. So people often don't understand this. And again, OutSystems does have a different approach from other players in the market here, and they just assume everything is the same.
Yeah.
So it's really about reassuring it's not a black box, there's full transparency, and there's an exit if is required, right? That's normally how I try to tackle it. Then it's about scalability. So people that are often on traditional development start asking about, can it scale like our current technology, our current stack? And yeah, I mean, with ODC especially, but O11, we do have hundreds of examples of applications that are highly performant and scalable. You just have to do it in a different way, more traditional approach. But with ODC, you have cloud native, you have auto scaling, you have high availability, you have performance monitoring, you have all these things that are enterprise scale deployments, uptime, safety, and SLAs. You have a lot of different things that you can show, and you can explain the ins and outs of the platform and make them feel more comfortable on why you're saying it is possible to do so. So, but then it's about all these non-functional requirements. So performance, but security is also number one, because they want to see what type of security do we offer, what type of security can they build in, if they want to customize it, if it's possible or not, if we are highly compliant or not, or our platform is able to achieve certain levels of compliance on certain industries. For example, on banking, usually it's PCI DSS. On healthcare, it's HIPAA compliance. So there's different ones. And again, you need to explain. There's built-in security, encryption, role-based access control, built into the platform, even during development time. You have all the certifications that you can have in the platform as well. So this is usually where I go. And then one that is very hard, I would say it's the hardest one, is this is often not said out loud. It's just something they fear. It's more if the development team will accept it, right? And by the way, the story I just told before on this bank, it's the case, right? Because the reason why they don't fire the guy and his team is because they need them. And if they don't accept it, they don't accept it. So you cannot buy the platform. So it's not easy, this one. So you can, again, the best way, in my opinion, is let the development team test the platform and show value quickly, start small and then scale with confidence, these type of things, and explain that this is an open platform, integrates with their DevOps tools, you have architecture governance, they gain productivity and control, but is a journey to do that. But this is, for me, definitely the hardest one.
I always thought the developers would be the toughest ones to kind of convince, because like you said, it's like football, soccer, whatever you want to call it. I think loyalty, right?
I think we have I actually never watched it, but I saw some shorts. But I think we have like some videos around, I don't know what the name is, but around developers that were exactly passed through this experience. They were very skeptical about it, and that they're telling their stories around
I saw that,
how that. Yeah, there's something around that, and it's not a small one. It has like lots of different stories.
There's so many around. Talking about, obviously, that's obviously people you're speaking to all the time. Regarding existing customers, OS 11's been extended. I'm assuming you got happy customers, but you're on the field. Can you tell me kind of how the reaction has come to that?
Yeah, look, Feroz, the reaction is very positive. Like I said, I was in South Africa last week, and because most actually of these customers are not going to be at the one conference due to distance, and they didn't budget for it. Very different reasons. But I kind of try to anticipate some things to make the most out of the trip. And one of the things that we were talking about was the extensibility of O11. So no more end of life. I think. My opinion is that we made, although we wanted to be very transparent, with our customer base, maybe it was not the best way what we did in the beginning, because we were trying to say, look, in 5 years,
Yeah.
or 6 years, 7 years,
Yeah.
we'll probably do this, but we'll let you know 2 years in advance
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway. So we
Yeah.
were trying to be
Yeah.
transparent to the market,
Yeah.
but it became kind of
A
more
negative. Yeah.
chaotic.
Real negative. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And if you look at it around, no company is doing this. If there's software providers are not doing this, and there's a
Yeah.
reason for that, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's seen as a oof. So I can now
Yeah.
continue to. It's not only about that we are extending. There's other things coming. I'm not sure I
Yeah.
can reveal it, so I will not. But there's
That.
other things
That.
coming,
Yeah.
which I would say will be extraordinary news for our customer base,
Yeah.
and they'll be revealed at one. And I think that people will feel that now they have an OutSystems approach rather than an O11 or ODC type of
Yeah.
of approach. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it definitely. I call it steadying the ship decision. Right. The ship is kind of steady
Exactly.
now. People are kind of okay. There's less kind of bad press. But I think the bad press was kind of dying out anyway. But I think this is
Hmm.
a real positive change. From
And Feroz,
yeah. Yeah.
it's also a very good start from our CEO, in my opinion.
Yes, very good start. Yeah, I think it was a very good thing to start with, to kind of get
Yeah.
everyone on your side, definitely.
Yeah.
And, something we've both done recently, you've done it in the past before, but, you've relocated to Dubai for a second time, with your family. And it's something that, I've done it, and I see less and less people doing this, right? It's very, I think maybe, I think we're similar ages. So I think when we were probably growing up, it was a thing that people did for their careers I want to go to the US, I want to go to UK or whatever. Relocation was really important step in people's careers, where now it's very, especially with remote working, people don't want to go anywhere, right? They want to stay in
Yeah.
their comfort
Yeah.
around family, get an international job if possible, right? Depending on where you are, and just be comfortable. So what kind of pushed you to kind of leave your comfort zone again and go out to Dubai?
Yeah, yeah, like you said, first, it's not easy, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why it's not easy because you kind of need to leave your loved ones behind,
Yeah.
and you have all these things ongoing with your life, and now
Yeah.
you need to kind of in some areas you need to kickstart from
Yeah.
scratch, right? So honestly, I think it was a mix of opportunity, timing, mixed with a little bit of courage from not only myself but my wife.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
pushed it a lot as well.
Yeah.
Professionally, I saw a change to join a region that has a huge opportunity in terms of digital transformation, because there's
Mm,
a lot of potential there. The Middle
mm,
East is, it's investing heavily in
yeah.
innovation, and
Yeah.
I think being there can see different things being built. That's something that interested me. But like I said, personally, it wasn't a simple decision. My wife
Yeah.
was, I think, probably 3 months pregnant when we
Wow.
moved. Our daughter was still 3 years old or something like
Yeah.
that, 3.5.
Yeah.
Like I said, moving with a family, changing routine,
Yeah.
starting fresh in a different culture, it's not easy. So, but I think what we saw was a growth opportunity for all of us, a
Yeah.
chance to live something different, building memories, challenge ourselves as a family.
Yeah.
So I think maybe yours was the same, but my transition was a bit chaotic,
Yeah.
like all good
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
stories are. So sleep schedules, paperwork, finding a
Yeah.
house, school, building a new support network. We
Yeah.
faced it all, but yeah, in the end, it made us stronger. So we're learning to adapt, to simplify, to
Mm,
focus on what matters. It's a journey, right? I would do it again. So I'm definitely for the challenge, the growth,
yeah. Yeah.
the stories I'm already starting to tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had a lot of support to be honest, from my colleagues in the Middle East. They were, also very helpful in this transition. They were
Yeah.
always trying to make themselves available if I needed
Mm,
something. So yeah, it's not easy, but I think it pays off in the end, just even if for the sake of the experience and
yeah.
having, your family, your kids. My,
Yeah.
my daughter was just there for 4 months. She was already
Yeah.
speaking English, like,
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know how. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
incredible, incredible. It's
But it's
really an
something
experience.
when I give advice to people from my experience, I think, because I think a lot of people hesitate to do it because of kids, disruption, grandparents, all those type of things, right? And the mindset I've always had and the advice I've given people is if you're going to do it, the best time to do it is when your kids are very young, right? Because kids are very resilient. And two, if you go there when they're young, even if you don't like it or you come back, you haven't affected any key schooling
Exactly.
agent, right? If you do it when it's older, it's a bit more, then you have to deal with the kid, kind of convincing them to move as well. Where
Yeah,
when they're at the younger age, it's
yeah,
different.
and depending on the kid can be tough, right?
Yeah.
If you have
Yeah.
your friends there and you
Yeah.
are building your life there and now you speak
Yeah.
English, right? if
Yeah.
my daughter returns to Portugal, let's say in 5 years,
Yeah.
of course, we are humans. We'll adapt. We'll survive.
Yeah, of course.
We'll
Yeah. Yeah.
strive. We'll strive.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it will be a tough time in the beginning
Yeah.
because now she doesn't know the culture, she doesn't know the language, she doesn't have any friends. So you're disrupting. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the sooner the better because you have
Yeah.
time to change your mind or
Yeah.
adapt if you need. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And talking about the market in the middle, you said you saw the
Mhm.
opportunity there. Obviously, all these countries have these visions, Vision 2030, and World Cups are coming, and there's money flying around in that region. How and going to that region, and we spoke about this in the past, was about obviously your style of doing things, right? Obviously, there's a way you would present or work with a European audience, not even European, even different countries in Europe. You have to change your style. How has your kind of adjustment and your approach or working style had to change compared to Europe versus Middle East? The Middle East is, from someone who's outside looking in, who's not lived there, I've only been there on holiday, very different compared to
Yeah, it
Europe
is
and the
different.
States.
Yeah, it is different. And Faraz, like you're saying, it's really the Middle East and Africa. So it's
Yeah,
UAE, but not only, it's also Saudi Arabia,
yeah,
it's Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman,
yeah,
Qatar, Turkey,
yeah.
Kazakhstan,
Wow.
and then you have South Africa on top. So there are countries which are fairly similar, but there are also countries which are completely different, right? So even on this adaptation, you need to adjust depending on who are you talking, because maybe you have a meeting at 11 with a person from, I don't know, Kuwait, and then you have with another from Kazakhstan, then you have a South African. They are all
Yeah,
completely different
yeah,
culturally speaking, right? So what I feel is, number one, the markets in UAE and, well, in the Middle East and Africa region is very competitive. Number one, it's vibrant, it's ambitious because of the reasons you said. That, well, there's money flowing around for
yeah,
sure, and there's also there's bold vision in there, right? So what we see is that we have now hundreds of customers. We have a growing ecosystem of partners. They form a very solid
yeah,
community over there, and that most of these countries are actually not trying to catch up. They are actually leading
yeah,
this global innovation, as you were
yeah.
saying. So they want to do things, and they need the technology to do those things, right? They see technology as an enabler to achieve
Maybe,
these
yeah,
ambitions they have, right? So, and OutSystems is very, very aligned, well aligned to support this type of things.
yeah,
So, for example, if you're talking, and this is a common use case, digitize citizen services, or
yeah,
modernize legacy systems, or enabling a faster go-to-market, for example, right? For new digital products of a bank,
mm,
as an example. So we are seeing tremendous growth in the region because we have a platform that can actually cover all of this and is seen as a
yeah,
platform for innovation, right? And in terms of approach, yes, I mean, I've had to adjust like you said, the scale, the urgency, the investment levels are
yeah,
often different from what I was using to in Southern Europe.
mm,
I would say there's a stronger appetite for results, but
mm,
relationships and trust building remain key. And this
mm,
is, I would say, similar, right? Right. It's a region where strategic alignment and execution speed must go, let's say, hand to hand.
yeah,
Also, one of the things I noticed more and I had to adjust is it's not only with the customers, it's also internally, because I
mm,
was used to talking to, collaborating with
yeah,
different, well, for example, account executives. The account executives in the Middle East are very different from account executives in Europe. The mindset, the way they
yeah,
work, and not criticizing or saying it's just
yeah,
different. So you have to understand how to work with them. And again, one is from, let's say, Egypt, another is from Lebanon, another is
yeah,
from UK, which is
yeah,
Europe, another is from
yeah.
Kazakhstan. So even the way we
Or
interact with
different
all these
styles. Yeah,
people
yeah,
is going to be different. So yeah, that's
yeah,
something I'm still learning, to be honest. But yeah, that I for sure had to adapt when I was in Portugal. Even if I
mm,
was talking with my Spanish
mm,
counterpart, they're very, very close to our culture, our way of thinking. So things that you unconsciously now I do
yeah,
in the Middle East that people might not like or perceive in a different way. For me now, I'm starting to identify them
yeah,
and adapt around those. Yeah, it's not
yeah,
easy, but it's
yeah.
fun for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think what these experiences can, for your personal growth, definitely play a big part, right? It's kind of, it's showing that you can adapt. Obviously, you've lived there before, but,
Yeah,
times change and things change as well. And you're in a different company as well. So it's a different style of working. But, it's, I respect people who do it, because it's not an easy thing having gone through it. So,
yeah.
well done for that. Lastly, and we've spoken about it a lot of the conversation, but, what would be kind of one final message you'd share to people who, today who are still very skeptical. Even though there's so many. There's the analyst. It's proven. There's so many use cases. That enterprise architect guy that people like him. Who are around who are very skeptical. What would be your message?
No, I would say this. I would say low code isn't about replacing what you know, it's about removing what slows you down, right? So if you are a developer or you are an IT leader or an architect, you probably already spend too much time writing boilerplate code or stitching systems all together. So just look at low code as a way to focus on what actually matters. So I'm talking about user experience, business logic, delivering value faster. That's
Yeah.
our message, right? And most importantly, it's not an all or nothing thing. You don't have to
Mm.
abandon, your current tools, your current processes. You can use low code alongside them, and you can accelerate delivery. You can prototype in a smarter way, and you can even modernize legacy systems incrementally. You don't need to do it all in one, as most people think. They need to choose one or the other. So my message is just don't dismiss low code because it's different. Evaluate it based on what it enables you to do. Yeah. And see if it delivers better outcomes. Let your team try it. I think we have enough proof to make sure that that they can see it, understand, they can try it out, and earn trust on the platform. So my experience is that the most skeptical people change their mind not because what I say,
Yeah.
they're not convinced by a pitch, right? But because they actually see the results with their
Yeah.
own hands, because they're trying the platform. So I would
Yeah.
say that's my message. Try it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the key is definitely stop looking like obviously there's marketing and there's fancy pictures and slides, right? But then the main thing is get your hands on the platform and then
Exactly.
all the things that you were skeptical about, see if they're actually the case, right? See if is there a limit? Can you do all the things you wanted to do? Is it helping you save time, right? So I think definitely that's the right message. So I appreciate you speaking to me, Paolo. It was great to speak to you. Hear, your journey, what you're seeing in different markets, even, your big move and things like that as well. So appreciate you taking the time and speaking to me.
Thank you so much, Ferris. It was a pleasure.